Want to expand the reach of your content? Start a podcast. Feature industry experts on your show and leverage the influence and reach of your guests to grow your brand. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Sean Blackburn with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Jonathan Rowe. He is the Chief Marketing Officer over at nCino. Jonathan, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Sean. Thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on the show. I'm excited about the topic that you'll be unpacking for us today, how to use data and analytics to prove marketing ROI. But before we jump into that, if you could just give our listeners a little bit of background about you and what it is that you guys do over at nCino.
Absolutely. So quick background for me, I actually spent a lot of time getting degrees and ended up as a professor in academia teaching entrepreneurship. And then lo and behold, had a wonderful opportunity in 2012 to join at the time what was a startup company that was just getting started called nCino that was going to tackle the banking industry from a cloud banking technology perspective. And, it's interesting. We, for listeners and for yourself and many who have interacted with banks over the years, whether it's a mortgage or a loan or even opening a deposit account, it's oftentimes can be a very frustrating experience because it's not very transparent and there's still, believe it or not, fax machines and paper involved. And so, again, back in 2012, nCino, when we started, really saw an opportunity to create a cloud-based software that would help solve that. And so here we are 7 years later. We have over 600 employees. We've raised about $150 million from some great investors. And most importantly, we have over 200 financial institutions using nCino around the world. And that's, I think the greatest testament to how well your product is doing is, are people buying it and, of course, benefiting from it.
I love you guys' vision with that. It is a painful process in a lot of ways. I just had some family who went through a painful process of getting a loan. And so being able to speak to that pain point is amazing. But I'm curious, just what was it like to transition from the classroom, teaching about entrepreneurship into a startup? What was that like for you, that experience?
Yeah, it's, for anyone who's ever taken a bit of a career leap or risk, that's, I think, what it felt like, because I, really enjoyed teaching and enjoyed working with young people. But I think for me, it really, I saw an opportunity around a team, around a product, obviously, as we just talked about in banking, and also the resources, because, oftentimes it takes capital. And so I think when you find a group of people, we built a phenomenal culture at nCino. You see access to capital to help you grow. And you most importantly, you see an industry that really needs a solution that will help them because, as we were just talking about, customers are often frustrated, but the bankers actually want to deliver a better service. I mean, a lot of people get into banking. They do that because they want to help small businesses and individuals and families. So the transition was sort of going from nice warm ocean water, a nice warm pool, and jumping into freezing cold water, I guess is probably the best analogy. But once you adjust to the temperature, it's fun to be swimming. It's been an incredible journey for me.
That makes sense. Amazing. So today we're going to be talking about, a lot about ROI and how to use data and analytics to prove your marketing's return on investment. But maybe if you could just hit first the importance of, marketing ROI and what that represents.
Yeah, it's such a great, I'm thrilled that we're having a chance to talk about this topic, Sean, because I think, especially in today's day and age, when you sort of peel back the onion of marketing and get to its very essence, at the end of the day, what marketing is about is you give me $1, right, as a chief marketing officer. I invest that dollar in different marketing activities and I help generate $100.
Right.
And when you think of that very fundamental concept, if you can turn $1 and help generate $100, why wouldn't a company, why wouldn't the people you work with want to invest more because they're seeing the results? And I think when you have that sort of fundamental principle, which when we started nCino, more importantly, we started marketing at nCino, that was the idea that we were going to build a marketing organization that did a lot of the traditional marketing activities because, again, at the end of the day, we're in business to make money and to help our customers and have a great reputation. But to do that, we have to invest in marketing, but we want to show and illustrate the value that the company is getting from that investment. And so to do that, it sounds easy. These things often aren't.
Right.
But marketing automation and all the different data and analytics that you sort of bring together to answer that question and showcase your marketing ROI is critical, because I think sometimes marketing folks can get into trouble when they've invested or the board or executives come to them and say, okay, we've invested X number of dollars in marketing. Show us the value you produced. And if you don't have a good answer or can't show a clear picture of that, I think sometimes marketing isn't appreciated for how important it is.
Absolutely. The old adage of when things get tough, what's the first thing to get cut? In a lot of organizations, it is marketing, and that probably goes to a fundamental misunderstanding or calculating of the ROI. So how do you approach that, with your work? What sort of methodology do you have in order to come up with that calculated ROI number?
Yeah, I think there's I would say there's sort of four variables that we use and I think, have been proven very successful for us. One, obviously it starts with a very obvious one, which is your costs, right? So, whether it's headcount costs, where you're investing in people, whether it's costs you're investing in PR, whether you're doing webinars, whether you're doing podcasts, whether you're doing advertising, but really making sure you have a good understanding of here's where I'm actually spending my money and how much. So it starts with your costs. Then it's sort of the next step from there is, okay, here are all the different activities that we're spending money on. So again, as we just sort of alluded to, whether it's advertising, whether it's attending conferences,
right,
whether it's doing podcasts, here are the activities. So you've got your costs, you've got your activities. And then the next big step is connecting those activities to actual sales opportunities. So in other words, as a B2B marketing organization, so nCino, obviously we're selling and marketing to banks. And so whenever we initiate a conversation with a financial institution, and it often takes us probably about 9 to 12 months from that initial interaction, if you will, to hopefully when they become an nCino customer. Over that 12 months, there's going to be a lot of hopefully different marketing activities that bank and those individuals at the bank interact with nCino. And so we want to be able to capture that information. So we take the activities we're doing and we actually connect them to a specific sales opportunity for us, a financial institution, and the individuals at the financial institution. And then sort of the fourth pillar, if you will, is the results, is when we actually, again, hopefully turn that prospect into an nCino customer. And then we can say, okay, marketing played this role. Now, it's at the end of the day, we're in a business where it's more than marketing, right? We got sales folks and others involved. But if we sign a financial institution, become an nCino customer, I'm always very proud to say, okay, here are all the different marketing activities, whether it's white papers and thought leadership, whether it's press releases, whether it's attending a conference in a booth, how all those activities played an influential role in delivering that. So it kind of, again, long answer to a great question. It's really understanding your costs specific to the activities you're doing in marketing, tying those activities to your sales opportunities, and then measuring the results.
Fantastic. So how do you approach capturing that data and all those analytics? And, it's a lot to track across, like you mentioned, the different activities, different channels that you have, and the different campaigns that you run. How do you guys do that over at nCino?
Another great question. And the very first part of the answer is it's not easy, right? It's taken us a few years. And I think that's, at the end of the day, is for marketing professionals listening, this is a journey. If you're looking for, an overnight, I'm just going to, put in a marketing automation system, or I'm going to start capturing analytics. It takes a while. And once you start connecting everything, then you've got to keep working at it. Then you add new things, whether it's Google AdWords or Google Analytics through your website, all these different data things. And I think one of the things that we've learned in the process, beyond just it being a journey that takes some time and a commitment, is that you want to be careful and you don't want to end up with a lot of what I'll call point solutions. So in other words, you don't want to end up with a CRM system and then you sort of Google Analytics and AdWords, and then you have a marketing automation system, and then you have some account management system, and then you have something to host your videos on. Right. It's not that you're not going to have different systems. You're going to have multiple systems. But if you end up in a scenario where you have too many systems, connecting all the data dots is difficult, because I think one of the things that we set from the beginning when we were going to build this whole analytic-driven organization is we said we never want to use spreadsheets. I never want to be in a situation where all these great technology systems we actually have to pull the data out of them, put them in a spreadsheet, and then we can analyze it. I want to be able to look at them in real time. And so I think back to your question is, one, you have to really be committed to data and analytics. You want to really have that sort of marketing-driven organization, knowing it's going to take time and cost to get there. And then two is you really want to make smart decisions around the technology you use, because, again, connecting all of the dots around your data is probably the most important thing. I want to be able to go into 2 or 3 systems, which is kind of what we have, and be able to look and see all that data together so that I can say, again, using our example of a financial institution, so I can see that Mary, who works at a financial institution that we're talking to, I can actually see that Mary was on our website yesterday, that she looked at all these different pages, that she spent 7 or 8 minutes on each page, but she downloaded one of our white papers. And then I find out that we're going to see Mary at a banking conference we're going to in a few weeks. And so what I can do is all of the automation, I know the salesperson will then log in and see all that information around the institution and Mary. And that sales rep will actually have literally on their phone, before they have that conversation at the conference face-to-face with Mary, they'll be able to see all our interactions. Now, some things you probably don't want to tell Mary, which is, hey, by the way, we've been tracking all your website activity on the nCino website. But what you can have the conversation about is, hey, she downloaded our artificial intelligence white paper around banking. Let's talk about that. And so I think, again, it's a very basic example, but I think when you have less systems, you've made the commitment and you've gotten to the place where you're bringing all the data into one real-time place, then you can start empowering people to use the data, and you can track your customer journeys in real time.
I really like that overall, empowering your team, especially, the connection between the marketing and sales, that there's a lot to say on that.
Hey guys, chances are you're running SEO, PPC, social, email, and other digital channels. So why aren't we spending the same time and attention on our highest converting channel, referrals? We all say we value word of mouth because we know it brings our best leads that end up being our best customers. But most of us aren't using referrals as an active marketing channel. Enter the definitive guide to referral marketing from our friends over at Ambassador. To get your free copy, head over to getambassador.com/growth. You'll learn best practices, tips, and strategies to generate positive and organic word of mouth by building your own scalable referral program. Learn from the world's leading referral company, Ambassador, trusted by leading marketers at HubSpot, Zillow, and Gong.io to build and scale their word of mouth programs. Again, go get your free copy of the definitive guide to referral marketing at getambassador.com/growth. And if you want to talk to their experts there, just drop them a note. All right, let's get back into the show.
Any other best practices that you would say that you guys have focused on with your automated marketing systems?
Yeah, so I would say it's making sure, again, it's the easy sort of high-level words we say about commitment. But so back to that example, which I used, which is the sales rep who's going to meet Mary at the conference has to be trained, and it has to be sort of ingrained in their mind that salesperson is going to go to their nCino, internal marketing automation app, look up Mary, and see all that activity before he or she talks to Mary. So by that, I mean, the commitment extends even beyond marketing, like you said. It's that sales and marketing relationship, but it goes further. All of us know that marketing is just not about generating new business. It's also about maintaining existing business and growing existing accounts and B2B. And so, again, Mary and that financial institution become a customer. We want to continue to monitor and engage with her and all her colleagues at said financial institution. And so we want to track all of that information. And so now we're working with our customer support team or our services team. And so my point is, and I think everyone knows this around marketing. I mean, marketing often touches every part of an organization and every sort of stakeholder from customers to partners, etc. And so once you kind of get the data, get the system in place and have the commitment, it's then training people and getting it ingrained in the culture that across the organization, they're going to leverage this data. And then the last comment I'll make about this, back to our example about Mary, when that salesperson talks to Mary, we need to make sure that salesperson after the conversation can quickly go in and drop some notes in there, because if he didn't or she didn't drop those notes, then we missed another piece of data and connection in the journey.
Absolutely. Always tough to get the sales people to log things. That's always a challenge. As far as delivering that ROI to your organization in order to prove your marketing success, how do you go about that as a marketer? And what would you suggest for marketers as they are doing this on a day-to-day basis? And how can they be proactive with that?
Yeah, I think I'll probably my answer will be around steps, right? Because as I mentioned, we're still trying to refine and perfect our system. It's taking us years to get here, but I'm always very proud. And so we just recently had a board meeting, and we're still a private company. We have, as I mentioned, capital that we've raised. So our investors, they obviously want to know, okay, how's the investment doing? And marketing and sales are often areas that are the beneficiaries of funding, right? Because you want to deliver results. And so I went into that board meeting and literally pull up a very high level dashboard that says, in 2018 we spent X thousands or millions of dollars on marketing, and we help influence and generate 10 times that. And so when you start with that back to our essence of marketing, when I can show that at a high level from a board perspective, you get a lot of generally buy-in from a marketing investment standpoint. But then when you go back to your executive team, or even go back to your marketing organization, then you can drill a level lower and say, okay, that's great. We spent X number of dollars and generated this. Let's now go down a layer and say, okay, what were the activities that generated the most results? Because generally those are probably activities you want to do again. So for us, at nCino, and again, sort of the 1, 2, 3s. That's another important thing I'd like to add is a marketing automation system is only as good as the data and the connections to data that you put in it and how you use the data. But it's also only as good as you making sure you maximize the fundamentals of marketing. And so in other words, a marketing automation system, I never want to be in this case, but I could pull up the data and it could say, hey, you invested, I'll make it up, $100,000 in marketing and you generated $40,000. Well, that's painful to say. So you want to make sure your fundamental marketing activities are working. Marketing automation also gives you a way to test things very quickly and be able to measure, is this working or not? And so again, long-winded to answer your question, but we then can go down and say, okay, these are our top 10 marketing activities that we did last year. And then you can have a great conversation, which is, okay, are those the same sort of activities? Like our top activity, like probably most marketers, is customer case studies and highlighting customers, because at the end of the day, the most powerful form of marketing are your customer stories. And so, it's nice validation to see that. And then you can have a marketing conversation, which is, okay, what beyond case studies, videos, what else can we do? Should we start a podcast with our customers? Because, we now have the data to really show that customers are that impactful. So again, long answer to a great question. I think for us, from a board level, I'm able to go in and show at a high level what we've invested and what we've helped influence from a investment and dollar perspective from marketing for the company, which is, again, if it's positive, it's always a great thing to talk about. If it's negative, it's not the end of the world, because at least that you can work to try and fix that.
Absolutely.
And then the second part of the equation is you can start drilling deeper and see all your different activities. So we're getting a lot more into digital, like a lot of companies are this year with remarketing and things like that. And I'm very excited to do that because I feel confident knowing, it's a big risk for us. We're going to invest a lot of money in it, but I feel much more confident, and it feels a little less risky by the fact that, we can tie back those interactions digitally to our marketing automation system to see how it's working.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love overall the commitment that you guys have at an organizational level. And obviously it flows from your leadership, but I think that it is such a, simple thing to say, like you mentioned, but very tough thing to do in practice, to have everyone on the same page and bought into the vision in order to actually log data, to actually communicate as a team. And that is going to exponentially affect the ROI.
I think for folks in the audience listening, I think if you're a marketing person, like a lot of industries, I mean, as we talked about very early on, we sell to financial institutions, and you can see financial institutions that are really trying to adopt, whether it's nCino or whatever technology, to improve the customer experience. But then you also see financial institutions that sometimes are against new technology, or they're just very comfortable with their paper-based or manual process. And as somebody passionate about nCino and what we're trying to solve in the industry, it pains me to see that, because I know that bank over time is going to struggle, and eventually customers may get turned off. And so I use that analogy because I think it's true in marketing. I think for the marketing professionals listening, if marketing automation, data and analytics, and all the things that we've talked about, if there are things kind of, just like a little seed in someone's mind that hasn't really been implemented yet, you're probably already behind. And I know that's a very scary thing to say, and you can catch up. But I do think for marketing professionals, the ability to be already on a path, if not, really leveraging all of marketing automation, ROI, and data and analytics. If you're not on that path, you're probably behind. If you are, you can feel good, but know that, you need to continue on that path. I guess is something else I would add.
Yeah, it's a really good challenge and something to definitely be focusing on here, and really making that commitment on a personal level as well. So, Jonathan, this has been a great conversation, and I love your perspective on how to use data and analytics to prove marketing ROI. If anybody has any follow-up questions about you or about nCino, what's the best way for them to reach out and find you?
Yeah, I think the best way is, obviously, like most companies, we sort of have our general contact us on our website, which absolutely will find its way to me, or I'm happy to, my email is Jonathan, JONATHAN.Rowe, ROWE @nCino.com. Always, I'm a very passionate marketing person. And so if there's anything I can do to help, and obviously if there's any financial institutions listening, we obviously would love to help you and work with you as well. So thank you, Sean. I really appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you having me. Big fan of the podcast.
Fantastic. And we certainly appreciate you coming on, Jonathan. It's been a great show. Thanks so much for your time.
Great. Thank you, Sean.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. All those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.